Okay. Got Hunter Donaldson and Don Day from Kapiti Citizens Advice Bureau. Welcome.
You'll have to face it towards.
So you have 3 minutes to present, and then we've got a further 5 minutes or so for questions.
Okay, well, thank
When you're
you
ready.
for hearing from us today. This is a follow-up to a submission that we made early last year, which has since been updated, explaining the role of Citizens Advice Kapiti and our financial position. Just in summary, who we are. We operate in two locations, here in Paraparaumu and Otaki, which is joined with us and is part of the one organisation. We have about 58 trained advisors that work 3 or 4 shifts a week each. We work in pairs, and we provide a service in Paraparaumu from 10 a.m. to 3 in the afternoon. We're generally pretty busy. Each year we deal with around 5,000 complaints and inquiries, which could be anything from the trivial to some pretty serious personal issues. We tend to be the help of last resort when nothing else will work. We get referred from other organisations because they can't help. Not excluding the council. We sometimes get council inquiries passed on to us, too hard, so they send it to us. The quality of our advice has to be quite a high standard. We're affiliated with our national organisation, Citizens Advice New Zealand. We have a very extensive database of information that we rely on to provide advice. And this helps us to be consistent right across New Zealand for all of the CABs. Our quality is monitored, and we give what we think is a really good service. We were originally sponsored by the council, which was great and helped to get us established years ago. But since 2018, the revised council funding system meant that our funding from the council stopped. So since that time, we've been operating largely on the reserves that we'd had accumulated, plus some contributions, funding contributions we get, such as from the Lotteries Commission, which is actually diminishing this year. But we simply don't have the funding sources to carry on operationally beyond this year. This year we're okay. Next year it looks as though our resources, our accumulated funds, etc., plus our other contributions, will get us down to pretty well nothing. And that means that in the absence of some good funding contribution, we'll have to think very hard about whether we can actually carry on. We will not be financially viable. This year we're budgeting a significant loss somewhere in the 35k region, and we just won't be viable. So throughout New Zealand, most CABs are funded by councils, pretty well all of them. There are a couple of exceptions, of which we are one, and most of them either receive financial support or assistance with premises. We have to pay for our premises. It's our biggest single cost, and for both Otaki and Paraparaumu, what's our total cost a year? It's accommodation. It's about 30,000 in round figures, and it keeps escalating because these lease agreements are CPI indexed, so the situation doesn't get any better. So that's what we're seeking. We're seeking to maintain our viability and our services, and we think our service is a valuable one for the community. And in the absence of support from the council, we don't think we've got much of a future. So any financial support we can get from the council will be really important and will keep us operating, and that's what we want to do. We operate a very low-cost operation here. We have no paid staff, unlike some better off Citizens Advice Bureau. Our operation is completely voluntary. Our committee does all the administration tasks to the best of our ability, and that's where we're at. So we're an incorporated society. We're a registered charity. We report annually to the charities register with all our financial details. So we're a proper organisation, and all the details about our operation and our finances are all in the very substantial submission that we made last year, and have more recently at the beginning of this year updated the numbers. Numbers of course keep changing, but that's all right. Okay, so we're happy to answer any questions that councillors may have.
Thank you very much for your submission. I'll kick off with a question from Councillor Pravanov, who's unable to be here except a little bit online this morning. So she asked, she says, thank you for your very detailed submission and for the work your organisation does in our community. As you are set up in 2 locations, how are residents outside these areas able to use your services?
Okay, the inquiries we receive are a mix of face-to-face people calling in, emails, and probably the biggest volume of inquiries are actually by phone. So we get a lot of telephone inquiries. So we think we can service the whole area from those 2 locations. We're certainly not in a position to think about any further locations. Yeah, as I said, we get inquiries by phone and by email, as well as by people physically calling in.
Yeah, thank you for that response. Councillor Coe.
Thank you very much. I think what you guys do is you're providing an essential service, in my view, and we absolutely need to find a solution. It seems to me like the best way to address that is to provide you with, or for us to work with you to find some permanent accommodation where you're not having to pay rent. Is that correct?
That would be wonderful,
yeah.
if we could have some suitable accommodation where we didn't have to pay rent.
Yeah.
Nothing has emerged to date.
Yeah.
But we're absolutely open to looking at some alternatives.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering what space requirements you have, and I presume there's a confidentiality aspect to some of the work that you do.
Yes, we need to have a reception area. We need to have an operational workroom that's sufficient to have 2 advisors working and reasonably spaced out to maintain confidentiality.
Right.
And we need, at the moment, we've got a further sort of workroom, which is valuable when we need to have separate discussions with people.
Right.
So we need to set up something like that.
Yeah.
We need to have good internet access, because our online and computer operation is critical to our work. And we really need to have exclusive access to those premises.
Yes.
It would be very difficult to share those premises with other people, given the confidentiality of the stuff that we do.
Yes. I'm just sort of thinking of, it's a bit like the food bank situation, and what they've done is obviously got themselves a building over the railway line there, which has solved their problem, so they no longer have to pay accommodation costs. Whether there's some kind of a solution there, maybe even alongside the food bank somewhere, to have some kind of a building there that you can base yourselves from.
Yeah, I think that's a suggestion rather than a question.
Yeah.
So,
but anyway, to me that's
good one.
The way forward.
A good one though. Yeah, thanks, Councillor Coe. Glenn Cooper. Oh, sorry, Glenn Olsen.
Thank you.
I do that all the time. Sorry.
No, a great service you do. I spent a bit of time in the Otaki a while ago, and I was just shocked at how busy it was. The phone didn't stop, and people just came in and out. And amazing. But the question I have: do you keep statistics or information on referrals, where the referrals are coming? Because I imagine a lot of your clients that you're getting are being referred to you. And do we know where those referrals are? And, because I believe that the council self-refers, people to you. Do we have an idea of, where the referrals are coming from?
Well, we certainly keep a lot of statistics. There's a system of reporting where Citizens Advice New Zealand records the statistics for each inquiry. So each inquiry we have, we do a little report which goes into our system, and the nature of the inquiry and some other details, age of inquiry and all sorts of things go into the system, and it produces a lot of statistical information about what we do. We don't have statistics of location of inquiries within the district, but the vast bulk of our inquiries come within the Kapiti district. But we do get inquiries from outside the district because there's an 0800 number New Zealand wide, and from time to time we'll get inquiries from people from either end of the country, and we sometimes get caught out a bit because we suddenly realise we're talking to someone in Auckland or Invercargill, and we have to sort of adjust the advice we give accordingly. But yeah, the bulk is from within Kapiti. But we don't have, and we've been asked this before, we don't have a breakdown of the location of inquiries within the Kapiti area. We just record it as Kapiti.
Okay, thank you. No, so I guess the question I just wanted to understand it was, does the council itself, they are referring people to you?
They do from time to time, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Olsen. Councillor Halliday?
Thank you through you, Madam Chair, and thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here. Thank you very much also for coming to the Social Sustainability Committee and presenting a little while ago. I just want to let you know it has not been forgotten, and what we talked to there has also not been forgotten. We are certainly, Nigel will agree with this, championing your cause. I was just wanting to clarify with regards to financial years, you're fine for this financial, well, I say fine, all things considered fine, up until July, and what you're asking for is some assistance for the next financial year. Is that correct? Well, you'd prefer it ongoing, but at this stage, next financial year would be a good
I
start.
wouldn't say we were fine this year. We have a significant operational loss, but we can cover that.
That's
from our
chewing into your
reserves.
reserves.
We will certainly be have an operational loss next year unless we have another revenue source.
Yes.
And next year, our reserves will pretty well be exhausted.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's why we need funding for next year.
Lovely. No, that was it from me. Thank you very much.
Councillor Wilson?
Thanks, Hunter and Don. I'll just reiterate what others have said. CAB is absolutely vital to Kapiti, to the well-being of the whole community. The 58 trained advisors, is there like a succession planning? Do you have many young people coming through? Is there a plan to?
We do. We continually, there's a certain amount of churn because, of course, as some of our advisors get older, like some of us, then there is a certain amount of churn, and as people move on, we don't have too much difficulty in recruiting people, and we're just in the process of training a new set of recruits at the moment. I can't tell you exactly. I think it's about. I should know exactly because I interviewed all of them. I think there's about 6. I think it is that are currently being trained. So once they're recruited and they've been assessed and had their police security check and all that stuff, they then have a hands-on training. They have a specialised training session, and then they go hands-on, and that's where they're at the moment, working with another advisor. So we get regular inquiries about people wanting to want to serve. So we do quite well in that respect. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Councillor Cofer?
Yeah, thanks, Hunter and Don, and thank you for the work you do in the community. Just a few questions. I believe the Otaki Citizens Advice Bureau is under your umbrella as well from about a year or two ago. So,
Yeah. What happened with the Otaki group is that they've got some enthusiastic advisors there, but they were struggling to appoint a management committee, which you have to have as an incorporated society, of course. And so we reached agreement with them that they would become incorporated as part of the Kapiti CAB. And they carry on operating, of course, and we work quite closely together. We have interchanges. We have some people from our area go up and help out there. We have a monitoring system which we share between the two bureaus.
Oh, thanks for that, and on behalf of the Otaki community, thank you very much for making that all possible for Otaki. Now, we're referring to referrals, and a lot come from this council. Police, and could you just go through a few other organisations? You're the last resort, obviously.
Yep.
They can't go anywhere else, so you're it. What other organisations?
Most of the inquiries we get are not referrals, but we certainly from time to time get referrals from the council, and we don't mind that because they may be issues where the council doesn't have direct responsibility, and they're quite happy to pass that on to us. Awkward issues about property boundaries and trees overhanging property boundaries, and how do you deal with that, and blah, blah, blah. So we know how to deal with those inquiries, and we're happy to do so.
Thank you.
From the police, occasionally, not very often, sometimes from other organisations. Can you think of others?
That's fine.
Yes, women's.
That's enough.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And age, Councillor Wilson sort of alluded to the age. Do you get, what would be the lowest age that would come in to you?
Oh, gosh.
Do you get children or,
No, we don't
teenagers?
get children.
Right, okay.
But we do sometimes get younger people in,
Yeah.
maybe people in their 20s,
20s.
People who have often family situations, issues of separation and partnership property and things like that. Those are the ones that tend to be in the younger age group. Maybe financial problems. Probably the balance is more towards the older age group.
Yeah, with my experience of the chair of the food bank, we work very closely with the Citizens Advice Bureau because of obviously budgeting and things like that.
Yep.
But thanks for your help. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Rob. David Cochrane.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a look last night. You're based in Coastlands, I think, aren't you? Is yours?
Yes, we're on the first floor in Coastlands.
Yeah, and rent's obviously the killer. I mean, that's what's completely wrecking your budgets. What I'd like to know is, are you getting any concessions from rent, or are you paying a full commercial rent?
I don't think we're getting any concession. We're going to be having a discussion with Coastlands shortly because our lease is up for review, and of course, knowing about our funding is quite an important factor in having that discussion. But no, I believe we pay the commercial rent for that level. Of course, it's less than on the ground floor. But, and it's got a lovely little CPI escalation clause in it, which they don't make any concessions on.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any further questions. Thank you so much for your submission and the work that you do in the community. Really appreciate it. Now we have Ruth Halliday, Kapiti Equestrian Advocacy Group. Just start when you're ready.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to the Kapiti Equestrian Advocacy Group submission. I'm also the equestrian rep on the Council's Cycleway, Walkway, Bridleway Advisory Group, so I have a strong interest in encouraging you to look favourably at our submission. Kapiti has a very good reputation nationwide for support of things equestrian, and staff are often contacted by councils from other regions for advice and information about developing equestrian services in their districts. And while I applaud and encourage this, it concerns me that we may be falling behind. As more land is being developed for housing and Greater Wellington Regional Council removed grazing from Queen Elizabeth Park, horses and riders are having to look outside this district. It doesn't bode well for equestrian life in Kapiti, and so we ask Council to explore any and all options for grazing on public land and to ensure adequate space open space is maintained to continue to accommodate equestrian sports and grazing. The economic benefits of the equestrian industry are significant, as Gavin Welsh and I detailed in this document that those of you who've been on council for a while will remember. A survey undertaken well over 10 years ago now estimated the return to Kapiti from the industry within the district would be $13 million per annum. And this would be significantly exceeded if some of the projects in our submission are realised. The multi-use projects, for example, Aotearoa Park and Wainui Whenua, must include riders in all planning discussions. And we're also very excited to be involved in the development of the CWB Master Plan and the establishment of a Trails Trust. And we encourage you to see the value of these. Districts north of us are developing trails that will connect with both the expressway tracks and those in the CWB Master Plan. The opportunity for people to walk or ride into our district and spend money here should not be overlooked or underestimated. Visitors need accommodation and food. When they bring their horses, that need is doubled. When they bring their families, the needs gets even greater, and when the families come with them and undertake other activities, the economic impact increases significantly. We have, over the years, talked about opportunities for horse camping, and we know there are landowners who have accommodation for both horse and riders, and we believe there are also opportunities for council to provide areas, for example, the Riki-a-Rangi Reserve, in cooperation with Greater Wellington Regional Council and providing such opportunities in Curie Park would also move this project forward. There's a tennis court in Greenwood Boulevard in Otaki, which we understand is rarely used. It's the perfect size for a public horse arena, which we believe could be well used and also be a source of income for council. We saw during Cyclone Gabrielle how horses could be used in disaster recovery, and we encourage you to look at how the equestrian community could and should be involved in any recovery plan. Our submission included several projects we've submitted on before, and I've spoken of a couple of them, but the others are important too. We'd very much like to see progress on the safe access across Raumati Road, 7 years after M to PP was opened. The beach access project, which started off with a hiss and a roar last year, has gone nowhere, as far as I can see, so we would really like that to finish too. And all council communication, advertising, publicity, road safety messaging, for example, be horse-friendly and inclusive. To make what we have already work well for horse riders, we need the infrastructure. It's missing in lots of places. We need tracks to be kept clear of vegetation, good parking, hitching rails, mounting blocks, signs, information for horse riders and for other users of the trails. Attached to our submission, and part of it, was a document outlining options for parking at the Otaki Lakes. This is a need for more than equestrians, and others will no doubt to speak to you of their requirements. But currently, horse riders who wish to connect to the expressway track, ride to Crystal's Bend or down to the sea can park in the racecourse. But the planned development will make this difficult, if not impossible. We know the neighbours on Toroto Road are unhappy with floats parking on the verge, and in wet weather it's not wise anyway. We need long-term, solid, convenient parking and request that you work with Greater Wellington Regional Council to make this happen. To progress the items in our submission and in the CWB submission, we need staff who are specifically dedicated to the growth and development of the network, and especially the bridleways, as they do not currently get the attention the cycleways and walkways do. A dedicated staff member would advocate for all user groups. The network has the potential to be our biggest economic drawcard when the master plan is realised. It will bring many visitors to Kapiti and support many, many businesses. So thank you for listening, for your attention. I look forward to seeing the results of your deliberations, and I hope that they put the Kapiti equestrian reputation right back on the top of the list again in the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've got a question from the Deputy Mayor.
Kia ora, Ruth. Thank you for your submission and presentation this morning. Just a quick question. Do you know how many are part of, well, obviously your group in terms of advocacy, but how many equestrian people do we have and horses do we have in the district? Excuse my ignorance here. It's just a thing I have no idea.
That's a wee bit like how long's a piece of string. But when Gavin and I did this document, we talked to the equine vets, who are the best responders for that, and around 1,000 sport horses, which is the recreational sport. Doesn't include racehorses, and it doesn't include miniatures. So if you add those, it's significant.
Great. Thank you.
Councillor Halliday.
Kia ora, Ruth. Not related, but it's lovely to meet you. Look, I just don't really have questions. I just wanted to acknowledge the Rikirangi Reserve horse camping idea, the Whinstone Quarry as well, and the potential tourism aspects of your submission. I think you've got an excellent submission here. I guess one question would be, from the CWB representation that you have, are you happy that that's being followed through on at the moment? Or would you be more interested in seeing some more feedback coming back to?
This is about the Rikirangi thing you're asking.
I mean, just in general.
Generally, no. No. That's why I included the piece about the staff.
Yep.
We have, since I've been involved, had very good staff over the years.
Yep.
But now there's a gap.
There's a gap.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. No, that's lovely. That's really what I was fishing for. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Councillor Cofer.
Oh, kia ora, Ruth there. Thanks for your presentation. Ruth, you alluded to the Greenwood Boulevard tennis court being turned into a horse paddock. What about
No, not a paddock. An arena
an arena? Yeah, okay. What
horse-
about the Old Taki race course? Have you thought of going to the owners there and saying, what about an equestrian centre rather than a 500 housing centre?
I think we've missed that boat.
Oh, no.
No,
It's
has that not all been signed off? Well, of course, that's what we have been looking at, and we wanted that in Aotearoa Park, and we got in the original plan a minor bit of what we wanted, and now I think that's gone back to the drawing board, so we have another opportunity
We'll
there.
keep working at it. Yeah.
But we're open to all and any
Right.
opportunities. Yeah.
And hitching posts on the new cycleway system, there seem to be, mounting blocks, are they? These stairs in the middle of nowhere, they help me get on my bike.
We're happy to share. Yes, if you've found them on, that will be what they are.
They seem to be in the middle of nowhere, but that's good.
Well, they need to be, because we need to get off every now and then just to kick the manure off the side, so you never know when it's going to happen, so we need them relatively close together and everywhere, actually.
Thanks. Okay.
I'm glad those are performing a wider purpose than it was originally intended. Councillor
That's
Wilson?
nice to hear.
Yeah, just a quick question. The grazing in Kiwi Park, my mind boggles that they decided to not let you continue doing that. But is that set in cement, do you think, or is there some negotiation there?
How do I phrase this nicely? The information and that they base that on has been proved completely wrong in court. But unfortunately, before those decisions came out, most of the fencing has gone and the park has been opened up. There are still some paddocks that, in my opinion, could be used, but there's a bit of work to do to get that through.
Right. And
to
just
progress that. But
yeah.
it unfortunately, as soon as that all happened, the fences and the gates all came out and the park was opened up. And so to return that the way it was, I can't see it happening in my lifetime anyway.
Okay. Cool.
More a question for Greater Wellington, that one.
Yes, it is.
Councillor Warwick.
I know you've been on the CWB advisory group for a very long time, Ruth, and my question to you is the dedicated staff that we've had in the past, that gap, is that the major problem going forward at the moment for council with regard to growing, maintaining, developing our network?
Yes, I think it is. Depends what comes from the top to ask staff that are peripherally involved, but having nobody that has that in their job description is a big gap. And we have been extraordinarily fortunate over the years to have really, really good people in that role, and the gap is enormous now that we have nobody.
Thank you. I've got a brief question from Councillor Pravanov. We're getting a little bit off topic with some of our questions, and I wonder if this is one of those, but I'll ask it anyway. She's just wondering about whether the group has developed a strategy for the wide range of activities to bring them into one strategy. And I'll just quote it because I'm not sure what it meant. How far down the track the trust to fund the proposed work? I guess the trust is gone or forming a trust? Yeah.
I can't answer that.
Okay, we'll take that offline. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your submission today.
When
Hang on,
Bruce
we've got one
Henderson speaks later, he may well have an answer to that question.
Great. Okay. So we'll park that question for Bruce later. Hang on a minute. We've just got Mr. Mansell with a question before we knock off.
Yeah, thank you for your submission. I just wonder, there's extensive equestrian facilities at Waikanae Park, including an arena and show jumping and massive amounts of parking. Can't you use those?
Yes, we can, but that requires people from both ends of the district to go there, and we're looking at providing, when there's an opportunity to have an area in Otaki, why should we put floats and trucks on the road to come down to Waikanae when we're looking to not have trucks and vehicles on the road as often as we do now. And there are, if I want to go and use the arena, I can share with 2 or 3 people, but they're not always available, and I certainly don't have it. The jumping, that equipment belongs to the Pony Club and the Adult Riding Club, and it's not available just on demand. I can demand to use, I can ask and pay to use the arena, but I couldn't set up those jumps. There's a whole raft of health and safety issues around that. I don't, because I'm not a show jumper, and I don't understand them completely, but that's how I understand it works. Those are there for training and competition, not for general public use.
So you're suggesting an arena in Otaki, but one in Waikanae, possibly one in Paraparaumu, one in Queen Elizabeth Park?
There's not one in Queen Elizabeth Park.
But there could be, if people have their horses based there. We don't want to drive.
But these are all very hypotheticals, and what we're asking for is to get some of them to not be hypotheticals.
I think the requests are quite clear in the submission, so we can refer back to that and consider it. Thank you so much for coming in today, and thank you for answering all the myriad of questions that you've been presented with.
Thank you.
One of which we poked for Bruce, and I think because Bruce is here, and it segues nicely into as a kind of subject into that. So we'll carry straight on with the Cycleways, Bridleways, Walkways Advisory Group submission, and then we'll take a break after that, if that's okay with everybody.
I'm sorry if I'm holding you from your morning tea.
No, we're all good.
Do I need to press this? No? Okay, cool. Okay, well, thanks very much. I hope nothing I say is going to be repetitive after what Ruth said. I mean, one of the unique things about Kapiti is that the equestrian factor is almost unique to Kapiti. And when you go across the country, almost all other trails networks and things like that actually don't involve equestrian at all. So from our point of view, it's actually a unique strength. And so what Ruth was talking about is something that CWB as a whole very much endorses. Of course, it's always a juggling act to try and fit in, because sometimes there are conflicting needs between walkers, cyclists, various forms of other wheeled vehicles and equestrians that we work through as best we possibly can. It's possibly opportune, in fact, that I'm actually talking about active transport right now, given that we've got increases in fuel costs, loss of public transport subsidies and all of those sorts of things, plus road user charges even for people with EVs, that maybe getting more people out on their bikes would be a very good idea. And walking and horses and buses, all of that sort of thing. I think that the role of CWB is already well known to advise council on the development and maintenance of Kapiti paths and trails networks, and making it attractive and age-friendly for everybody, regardless of age, regardless of ability, everything from school children trying to get to and from school, right up to quite a large demographic of older people in retirement villages, many who, for instance, no longer have their licences, but can ride an e-bike up to Mahara Place for a cup of coffee with their friends and things like that. So it's actually really, really important that we develop from that point of view. It's both a commuter and recreational network, for many of our users, and it's a significant attraction that brings visitors to Kapiti. Every weekend and often during the week, groups and individuals arrive from Wellington and points north. I get to speak to some of them to ride and walk on the network, which feeds into local businesses. So it's actually it's not only catering for the needs of our own communities, but it's actually an investment in the local economy as well. I remember Max Lutz complaining that he couldn't find parking when he wanted coffee because there were so many other people from out of the district that were here using the network. So, which is great, it's really, really good for the business. And talking to Ruth Pretty about installing a whole parking area for bikes, because so many of them are visiting the place in Tohoro just in time, given that it's shutting down. We're also a visible contributor to the Council's program of emissions reduction. The more we can support children walking and riding to school, shoppers, and people out to meet friends, the less congested the roads are. let's say 10 bikes times 10 metres or 10 cars times 10 metres, put those people on bikes and you've got well over 100 metres, maybe 200 metres of free space for cars. So we make a very rapid difference to congestion just by putting a few more people on bikes or getting a few more people on bikes. But to really progress, we actually need safe routes between homes and destinations. And for bike and horse riders, as Ruth commented, places to leave them securely while we go about our business or have our coffee or whatever. Along with our submission from CWB, some of our member groups, Cycling, Equestrian, Accessibility, and in fact the Trails Trust that you mentioned before, are also making their own submissions. Well, you've just heard one. So we support these, and much of the material has actually been integrated into the CWB submission as a whole. So at the moment, to take 4 areas that we're focused on, there's a number of key access and safety issues. Resolving Campbell's Mill Road is a really important one because there's ongoing tension there. I know it's being worked on, but it's very slow. And at the moment, there are people who are sort of trying to find their way through there regardless of the issues, and it's actually not helping. The sooner it can be resolved, the better. So that's one. Progressing Peka Peka Road, which has been on the books. It's probably the key main road in our whole district that's unsafe because of the number of vehicles that whoop up and down that road. There are no safe shoulders. Cyclists and equestrians and walkers, I guess, have just really got to take their chances on that road. It's not a safe one. So that's another one. The Upriver Waikanae connector through to Rekarangi that, again, I think that Ruth mentioned. The post-revocation route through Waikanae, if you look at the last week's bulletin, the Tuesday bulletin, it actually gave a link to the road, to the design. It was called Option 1 on the Waka Kotahi website. That's not what was built. All the cycle lanes that are actually shown on that, the green marked cycle lanes, almost none of them were actually installed. So it's actually quite dangerous through there for some people. Locals know about it, they know to avoid it, but visitors don't. And so they find themselves riding through there, and to date, it's the only place we're getting reports of abuse of motorists abusing cyclists because cyclists are getting in the way. There's nowhere else for them to go. So that's actually a safety issue. I know some of it's being addressed under the sort of post-revocation process, but still quite a lot more needs to be done before it's actually really safe. Safer routes for Tamariki to and from schools is really critical. We've got the bike bus that's working now, I think, at Ramity Beach School, I think, which is really good. And also the last one is on-road gaps in the existing network. There's a full list of these in our submission, so I won't go through them. Infrastructure around the network. This is seating along the way for people that need them. You know, we have a lot of older people. They get halfway up the path, they need a rest. A seat there would be great. The upriver, wrong one. Tethering and mounting blocks for horse riders that Ruth mentioned, and for cyclists to climb on and off their bikes. Toilets, again, I know some are being put in, which is great, but we need more. On-road gaps in the existing network. Parking for users, including horse floats, and signage everywhere for the network to inform people. There's still people getting lost up and down, the expressway. How do I get from here to there? Whether they don't read the signs or just miss them, I don't know. Another one, ongoing publicity of what we've got. We've got a fantastic network. The council's done some terrific work. We've got some lovely maps, both in paper form and online. Online maps and brochures, and a presence on websites such as the Wellington Find Your Wild website. And there are spots on the Tuesday weekly updates that I mentioned before. Getting this out to a wider audience in some way would be really, really good to actually attract more people. There are still people who haven't found those. I know, I meet them on the trails. I make a point of talking to them, so further publicity. Again, is going to sort of raise the profile and get more people using the network. But lastly, of course, the biggie, the Trails Trust. I promised I'd mention this. As a district, we're only just starting along the road to becoming a prime destination for walkers and riders I mean both on hooves and wheels. When you compare us with, say, Otago, Hauraki Rail Trail, Nelson, Tasman, Waikato, Northland, Hawke's Bay, Taranaki, which has got a fantastic presence, so big that they're actually breaking it into smaller trails trusts because there's so much happening there. We still have a relatively short length of trails per capita, and are really only first steps in developing commercial infrastructure, such as tour companies, shuttle providers, food and beverage links, accommodation, and so on. I know from having contacted a number of the groups that have posted on Facebook that they've come and visited our network, they stay in the hut or Wellington. They don't stay up here. So again, it's partly because there isn't quite enough accommodation for that type of visitor. But again, it's something we're missing out on. We don't have the accommodation for groups of 10, 15, 20 staying 2 or 3 nights to ride different trails. I mean, you can ride almost all of our trails in a day or so, or half a day. So the whole market, which is the really big market, is the overnight 2-3 day one. And that's what the Trails Trust's really all about, using the hills up behind us. I presented to council on that before, so I'm not going to go back through it. But it's those longer rides where, if you can imagine, you can go in off the Akatarawa Saddle, come out into Waikanae overnight via Rikarangi, go back in through Mangoni, come back in through Otaki, and then head up back into the hills. Or you can stay in eco huts. I know there's been a little project going on that one, where the huts are actually up somewhere within the network so that people can stop off overnight and then continue. There's a huge potential market in that area. But there's a lot to develop there in that area yet. We've got the most incredible environment, so it's a matter of actually working through the process of using it. Just where the trust is at the moment, I mean, there's only 4 of us, and 2 of us are retired and the other 2 are hunting for jobs. So it's not as if we're full-time workers on it. But we're at the stage now where we have potential access to fairly substantial funding, and I'm talking about a lot, as in 7 figures, especially from sources that council can't access because of the regulations. So being able to access that. We've got a number of talented people who have put their hand up to be trustees or who are potential trustees that we've yet to speak to. And we've got strong interest from a range of user groups, elected members of council and community boards and administrators, funding providers and so on. We're also looking to engage local businesses as much as possible to provide the workforce, trail builders, the bridge construction. I never realised until 2 days ago that all of the big bridges you see on places like the Timber Trail and things like that are built in the Horowhenua. It's a nearly local company. They're building bridges all over the country, all over New Zealand. It's a fairly nearly local business. Yeah, so that's part of it. The piece of the jigsaw that's missing right now is actually a formally constituted Trails Trust for them to engage with. We've got a lot of people who say, yes, we will, as soon as you've got a trust we can talk to, that we can engage with, that we can contract with, and so on. So that's the critical point at the moment. There's a more detailed submission in outlining what's needed in the first 3 years to get the trust underway, and that's in the submission. So that's why I'm covering it now. So it's we're looking at really about a 3-year period at the moment before we get to the stage that it starts to become more self-sufficient, self-funding, and we actually start to feed back into the local economy. I mean, the ED potential in this is absolutely massive. If you look at any of the successful trail trusts, the number of visitors that are coming in, we're perfectly placed, as we said in our original presentation. We're close to an airport. We've got trains that get people almost straight onto the network. We need to build parking and things like that. So all the potential's there. It's just a matter of putting it all together. We're currently working through the relationship, how the relationship with council will work, because that needs to be formally constituted. We do need formal council support. And because none of us have done this before, none of the 4 of us, we're actually looking at the most successful trail trusts in the country, particularly Taranaki and Queenstown, because their structures seem to be working very, very well. And we're working through Te Herenga Anuku Aotearoa, the Outdoor Access Commission, and they're actually supporting us as well to work through that. So we ask that council give its full support to getting the Trails Trust formally constituted and operating. Finally, I'd like to say a very big thank you to the staff we work with. I know they are doing as much as I think they can within the resources they've got. We know money's tight. We know that the dreaded word rates keeps popping up. We understand that. But this has got potential to actually get past that and actually support rather than just be a drain on funds. But also, we very, very much value their support and efforts. Also to the councillors and community boards, some of whom are here, you are expressing your support and encouraging us, and we really appreciate it. And we look forward to continuing the relationship. So thank you. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. We had a bit of extra time, and I'm really happy that we did, because it was great that you were able to get through all of that information today, because there's so much work going on in that space. So thank you to you and the group for the work that you do. It's just extraordinary.
Thank you.
Just extraordinary. Particularly the last year, there's been so much progress and so much to work on in the future too. So thank you.
Yep.
I'll go to Councillor Coe, who has a question.
Thanks, Bruce. Look, I'm a big fan of the work on the trails and the eco huts.
Yes, I know.
But look, I'm just wondering why you don't just go ahead and set up a trust. You don't need council to help you in that process. It's just a simple matter of getting a trust deed, having some trustees, and just doing it. Why do you not just do it?
It's that's the issue. That's what we're working through at the moment. We're none of us experts on it. The advice we have is actually basically getting it legally constituted.
Yes, that's right.
Which means, that costs.
Yeah, a couple of grand.
And
maybe.
I know that's being worked through at council at the moment. I wasn't going to talk about the money. I know that there is some funding to do that. And we're actually active looking at who we would employ right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to talk to you. I've myself set up a couple of trusts and other groups, you know, if you need some help in that direction, I'm happy to come and talk to you. But there should be no barrier to a group of you just setting up a trust. It doesn't require
So
council
I'd
input,
ask councillors to refrain from making suggestions
Right,
to
okay,
submitters
all right,
today.
Right.
Listen,
I'm just
No.
puzzled. You
yeah,
know,
no,
as to-
well, as I say, we're all sort of feeling our way at the moment. None of us has done it before. So
Right.
we're just not sure. We're taking it carefully and trying to get it right the first time. There are trusts who've made mistakes, and we're just determined that we won't make them. And so doing it properly is what we're doing at
Yes,
the
I
moment. But
just-
look, I'd be happy to take you up on
Okay.
that.
All right,
Yeah.
okay.
We live just around the corner.
Thank you for the
so-
offer.
Okay.
A number of trusts across the district exist thanks to Councillor Coe's assistance and contribution. So thanks for that offer. Councillor Wilton.
Yeah, thanks for that, Bruce. The Peka Peka Road.
Yep.
You're saying how dangerous that is for. I can testify to the cyclist part of it, don't know about the rest of it. But so have you had any discussions with Waka Kotahi around that?
Not directly with Waka Kotahi. I know they've been involved at council level. CWB as such hasn't done so at this stage. No.
Okay.
I know there have been steps towards design. I think we're talking. I don't know what the current costs are. At one stage we're talking about 1.5 mil for an off-road shoulder type, or off-shoulder type pathway, which would have to be suitable for both basically mountain bikes and horses and walkers. But it's a fairly major project, and so no, we haven't talked directly with Waka Kotahi.
Okay.
I'm not sure whether it's all going to stand under the current government's regime either.
That's right.
I think we'd actually have to prove it's important economic driver, for that to happen. So I guess we're probably all waiting for exactly what that's going to look like when we get clearer policy from above.
And in that regard, I mean, we do have fantastic trails in Kapiti. I have to pay a bit of a tribute to a former mayor, Jenny Rowan, who was a real driver of a lot of that, and we are the beneficiaries of that today. I just wondered about what your relationship with the Kotahitanga board is in terms of and Wellington NZ, if you've had any direct contact with them, because this is a tourism driver.
It is, yeah. I personally, through CW tends to work through council staff on that. We do have quite a lot of stuff on Wellington NZ on the website, and so we're actually linked, and that's the Find Your Wild and things like that. So most of that happens through council staff level. We have had, going back through history, we've actually had a couple of people come and speak to us, so there is a relationship there, but it's not an ongoing day-to-day one. So far as Te Whakamenenga is concerned, I do read their minutes and keep up to date with what's there, and we do the minutes. Our minutes and agenda are shared with a representative.
Just wait for the microphone to come back.
Kotahitanga board. No, we don't have a direct relationship there.
Okay.
It's something I think we need to actually encourage or work towards, because particularly, I mean, one of the concepts particularly about the Trails Trust network and the big network up the back is the Te Ao Māori and the role of the old Maori trails, for example, how they got through from here to the Hutt Valley and things like that. You know, there are stories that can be told on the network, and so bringing those in as part of the picture, I think, is really, really important.
Councillor Warwick.
Having been on the CWB for a while, we have had amazing staff, and we've been very lucky, and the staff that are there now are great. But do you see that not having a dedicated person who is specifically CWB growth maintenance?
I don't think that questions
No?
around staffing issues.
No, I just wondered if it's a gap.
It's not appropriate to
No?
direct questions
Okay.
about staffing issues to submitters. Thanks, Councillor Warwick.
Okay.
David Shand.
I'll leave that one.
Well, I hope this question isn't out of order, Your Worship, but as someone who is a walker and a biker, I'm quite concerned about questions of biker etiquette. And I'm quite concerned about the failure of people to use the bloody bell. if they have one. You have a comment.
Yes, look, I totally understand what you're saying. I guess cyclists.
Oh, we're certainly having a
cyclists
broad-ranging
like-
discussion about this one.
Yeah.
I'll move on to Councillor Halliday. Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Bruce, fantastic work you guys do. Very, very supportive of you forming the trust, and I think I'll tag team that one with Councillor Coe. The only question I really have, do you have any linkage to the current Tourism Advisory Group at all?
No, we've had I haven't particularly one-on-one, but Janice Hill has had quite a lot of discussions and is regular contact with George Hecton on that.
Okay, that's cool.
And it's something, at the moment, he's sort of only semi-available. I think he's been out of the area for a while for health reasons, I'm not sure. But it's something we very much want to set up. He's certainly very supportive of what we're doing, or what we're trying to do. And so that's a relationship that we really, really need to make sure happens.
No,
and the other one is with the economic development side.
Yes.
I mean, that's...
Yeah.
Thanks, Liz.
And,
I think that's critical, because it's the whole ED side is where it's going to be very much a two-way process to moving that forward.
Yeah, look, a very, 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 very strong supporter of wellbeing tourism up here, and that just sits into that perfectly, that sort of stuff. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing where all this goes. But thank you very much for the work that you guys do.
My pleasure.
As well.
I actually say I'm enjoying it. I wondered what I was going to do in retirement. Now I know.
Well, we certainly appreciate the time that you give it, Bruce, and thanks for your submission today. It's been a great discussion. I've allowed that to go a bit more broad-ranging than I usually would, because we had a bit of time in hand. But for the rest of the day, if we could be a bit more disciplined about the kind of questions that we're asking, stick to the submission, and ask for points of clarification. I am not directing that at anyone in particular. But but it's been great to have the discussion, seeing as we had the time today. Thank you. So we'll now take a break until 10:02.